You're about to discover what happened to the children of Mark Antony and Cleopatra after their parents' deaths. And I need to warn you, this isn't the sanitized version they teach in classrooms. This is the story Rome deliberately erased from every official record, the one that reveals exactly how far Octavian was willing to go to secure his empire. Forget the dramatic suicide scenes. Forget the romantic tragedy of Antony and Cleopatra. What came after, in those final hours before dawn on August 12, 30 BCE, was something far more calculated, far more chilling. And it all centers on one girl who had the misfortune of being born with her mother's face. This is the story of Cleopatra Selene. She was 14 years old. And what Octavian ordered done to her in his private chambers that night would determine the fate of an entire bloodline. Let me show you exactly what happened. It's 3 days after Cleopatra's death. Alexandria is burning. Not from conquest, from chaos. The greatest city in the Mediterranean world is tearing itself apart as news spreads through the streets like poison. Their queen is dead. Their king is dead. And the children, the royal children, are missing. But you and I know where they are. Deep in the royal palace, in what used to be Cleopatra's private wing, 3 children sit in a room lined with their mother's belongings. Cleopatra Selene, the eldest at 14. Her twin brother Alexander Helios, mirror image of his sister, same dark eyes, same defiant chin. And Ptolemy Philadelphus, barely 6 years old, who keeps asking when mother is coming back. They haven't been told yet. Not officially. But Selene knows. She's known since the moment the Roman guards escorted them from their rooms with that particular gentleness reserved for prisoners who don't yet realize they're prisoners. She's known since they locked the doors from the outside and posted sentries who won't meet her eyes. She knows because she's her mother's daughter. And her mother taught her to read power the way other girls learn to read poetry. The room is a masterpiece of psychological warfare, though the children don't understand this yet. Every object carefully chosen. Cleopatra's favorite chair positioned by the window. Her perfume bottles arranged on the vanity, still fragrant with myrrh and cinnamon. The ivory comb she used every morning lying on the table as if she just set it down. Even her sandals placed neatly by the bed. Everything suggesting she might walk through that door at any moment. Everything reminding them of exactly what they've lost. This isn't mercy. This is preparation. Octavian is softening them, making them vulnerable, breaking down their defenses before he ever enters the room. Because in 6 hours he's going to walk through that door and make them an offer. And he needs them desperate enough to accept it. But here's what makes this moment so devastating. Here's the detail that will haunt you. Young Ptolemy has found his mother's diadem. The golden serpent crown she wore at state functions. He's put it on his own head and he's playing Pharaoh, giving imaginary commands to imaginary servants. And Selene lets him. She doesn't have the heart to take it away. She doesn't have the heart to tell him that the game is over, that there are no more pharaohs in Egypt, that their entire world ended 3 days ago in a mausoleum with a basket of asps. Instead she watches him play. She watches her little brother pretend to be royalty while Roman soldiers stand outside the door. And she makes a decision that will echo through the next 48 hours. She decides that whatever happens, whatever Octavian wants, whatever Rome demands, she will survive. Not for herself. For them. For her brothers. Because someone needs to remember. Someone needs to carry forward what their parents died for. She has no idea that within 2 days she'll be the only one left alive to do it. Let me take you inside Octavian's private chambers, same night, different wing of the palace. This is where the real decisions are being made. This is where the future of Rome is being written in wine-stained correspondence and whispered conversations. Octavian sits at Cleopatra's own desk, a calculated insult to the dead queen. He's surrounded by advisors, all men who've been with him since the Civil War, all men who understand that tonight isn't about mourning or mercy. Tonight is about mathematics. Marcus Agrippa speaks first. He's Octavian's general, the man who actually won the Battle of Actium while Octavian watched from shore. The children are a problem we can't ignore. Every day they live, they're a rallying point for rebellion. Maecenas, the political strategist, counters immediately. Every day they live under our control, they're proof of our mercy. Rome doesn't slaughter children. Rome civilizes them. This is the debate that will determine 3 young lives. And notice what's absent from this conversation. No one mentions justice. No one mentions the children's actual guilt or innocence. No one even mentions their names. They're pieces on a board, problems to be solved, symbols to be managed. Octavian hasn't spoken yet. He's reading something, a report from his intelligence network in Rome. His face reveals nothing, but his fingers drum against the desk, one of his tells when he's calculating odds. Finally he looks up. Tell me about the girl. The shift in the room is immediate. Everyone understands what he's really asking. Not about Cleopatra Selene the child. About Cleopatra Selene the symbol. About what she represents to Rome, to Egypt, to the future Octavian is trying to build. The intelligence officer steps forward, a man named Gaius Proculius who'd been the first Roman to enter Cleopatra's mausoleum, who'd literally pulled the queen away from her suicide attempt. Failed, of course, she'd managed it anyway. He knows the family better than anyone in this room. She's extraordinary, Proculius begins, and there's something in his voice, respect maybe or warning. Speaks 6 languages fluently. Reads Egyptian hieroglyphs better than most priests. Her mother had her sitting in on state councils since she was 9. She understands rhetoric, mathematics, astronomy. She's been trained to rule. So she's dangerous, Agrippa concludes. So she's valuable, Maecenas corrects. Caesar, you're missing the opportunity here. This isn't just Cleopatra's daughter. This is Cleopatra herself, reborn, brilliant, educated, royal. But young enough to reshape. Imagine if we could turn her into a Roman. The room goes silent. Because everyone understands what Maecenas is really proposing. Not execution. Something far more ambitious. Cultural erasure. Identity transformation. Taking everything Cleopatra died for and perverting it into a symbol of Roman supremacy. Octavian leans back in his chair, that same calculating expression. What about the boys? And here's where the conversation takes its darkest turn. Proculius hesitates just for a moment, but everyone catches it. Alexander Helios is his sister's twin. Same intelligence, same training. But he's male. And his name is a problem. Explain. Helios, the sun god. Alexander the Great reborn, or so Mark Antony proclaimed at the donations of Alexandria. The boy literally represents the fantasy of a new Alexandrian empire stretching from Greece to India. As long as he lives, that fantasy lives. Octavian's fingers stop drumming. And the youngest? Ptolemy Philadelphus is 6. Barely remembers his father. Doesn't understand politics. He's malleable. But he's still a son of Mark Antony, Agrippa adds. Still a potential figurehead for anyone wanting to challenge your authority. And his name, Philadelphus, sibling-loving, it literally ties him to his siblings. The 3 of them together represent continuity, legacy, dynasty. The mathematics are becoming clear. Selene alone is a curiosity, an exotic princess who can be civilized and displayed. The boys together are a threat, a potential alternative government waiting to happen. Maecenas sees Octavian working through the calculation and pushes his advantage. Separate them. Take the girl to Rome. She'll be your triumph, your proof that even Cleopatra's own daughter chooses Rome over Egypt. Raise her in Octavia's household, your sister can civilize her, marry her off to some loyal client king eventually. She becomes a symbol of your mercy and Rome's cultural superiority. And the boys? Octavian asks quietly. The silence that follows lasts exactly 7 seconds. I know this because Octavian's personal secretary, a Greek slave named Diodorus, was in the room taking notes. His account, discovered in a cache of private papers in 1847, provides the only record of this conversation. And he was precise about timing, about pauses, about the moments when history held its breath. 7 seconds while every man in the room understands what's being proposed without anyone actually saying it. Finally, Agrippa speaks the words no one else will. They die, Caesar. Quickly, quietly, with dignity if possible. But they die. Because Rome cannot afford another generation of Ptolemaic princes claiming divine right to rule the richest province in your empire. Octavian stands. He walks to the window, looks out over Alexandria. The city his ancestor Julius Caesar nearly lost Rome for. The city that cost Mark Antony everything. The city that will either become the foundation of his new empire or the seed of its destruction. I want to meet her first, he says. Bring me the girl. Tomorrow alone. I'll make my decision after I've looked her in the eyes. Everyone understands what this means. Octavian is going to give Cleopatra Selene the chance to save herself. But only herself. The boy's fate is already sealed. The only question is whether their sister will be forced to watch. What happens next isn't in any official Roman history. It doesn't appear in Plutarch's Lives or Suetonius's Chronicles or Dio Cassius's histories. But it appears in Diodorus's private papers, in the memoir of a Greek physician named Olympos who served the royal family, and in a fragmentary letter discovered in the Cairo Geniza in 1952, written in Aramaic by one of the palace servants. 3 independent sources, never meant for public consumption, all telling the same story. Someone visits Cleopatra Selene the night before her meeting with Octavian. Someone unauthorized, unexpected, carrying information that will change everything. It's past midnight. Selene finally got her brothers to sleep, Ptolemy curled against Alexander like a puppy, both exhausted from crying. She's sitting by the window watching the fires still burning in the city, when she hears the lock turn. Her first thought is that they've come for them early. Her second thought is to position herself between the door and her sleeping brothers. But when the door opens, it's not Roman soldiers. It's a woman. Middle-aged, Greek by her features, wearing the simple tunic of a palace servant. But there's something in the way she moves, purposeful, careful, that tells Selene this isn't a random servant. Who are you? Selene demands, keeping her voice low to avoid waking her brothers. The woman closes the door behind her, locks it again. My name doesn't matter. I worked for your mother. I'm here because of a promise I made her 3 days ago in the mausoleum before she died. Selene's entire body goes rigid. You were there? I brought the asps. The woman says it matter-of-factly, no drama, no apology. Your mother asked me to do 2 things. First, help her die. Second, if I survived, warn you about what's coming. I know what's coming. Octavian will execute us or imprison us or parade us through Rome in chains. I've already considered every possibility. The woman shakes her head. You've considered the obvious possibilities. You haven't considered what Octavian actually plans. And you need to know because tomorrow he's going to make you an offer. And if you don't understand the full situation, you'll make the wrong choice. She pulls a small scroll from her tunic, hands it to Selene. Your mother dictated this before she died. She knew Octavian. She'd negotiated with him, manipulated him, studied him for years. She knew exactly what he'd do after her death. And she wanted you prepared. Selene unrolls the scroll with shaking hands. It's her mother's handwriting, unmistakable, the Greek letters sharp and clear even in the dim lamplight. My beloved daughter, if you're reading this, I'm dead and you're alone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. I'm sorry I chose love and lost everything. But I need you to be smarter than I was. I need you to survive. Tomorrow Octavian will summon you. He'll offer you a choice. Your life for your brothers' deaths. Your future in Rome for their erasure from history. He'll make it sound reasonable, merciful even. He'll tell you that the boys are too dangerous to live, that their existence threatens Rome's stability. He'll promise you safety, education, status if you accept their deaths gracefully. Don't believe him. But don't refuse him either. Octavian's weakness is that he thinks in terms of symbols and optics. He needs you compliant but not broken. He needs you impressive but not threatening. He needs you to choose Rome over Egypt willingly, because forced conversion doesn't make good propaganda. So give him what he wants. But extract a price he doesn't expect to pay. Here's what you demand: Ptolemy lives. Not Alexander. The Romans will never allow a boy named for Alexander the Great and the sun god to survive. But Ptolemy is young enough, forgettable enough, malleable enough. Tell Octavian you'll accept everything, you'll go to Rome, you'll become his perfect civilized trophy, you'll praise Roman superiority in every language you speak. But only if Ptolemy comes with you, only if your youngest brother lives. Octavian will want to refuse. Let him. Walk away. He'll call you back. Because he needs you willing more than he needs your brother dead. This is the game, my darling. This is the last move I can teach you from beyond the grave. Save who you can. Survive how you must. And remember everything they try to make you forget. You are the daughter of Cleopatra Selene Philopator, Pharaoh of Egypt, descended from Ptolemy Soter, companion of Alexander, descended from the gods themselves. They can take your crown, your country, your name. They cannot take your mind. They cannot take your memory. Make them regret they didn't kill you when they had the chance. Your mother who loved you more than empire. Selene reads it 3 times. Her hands are shaking so badly the papyrus rustles. When she finally looks up, the servant woman is watching her with something that might be sympathy. Is it true? Selene whispers. About Alexander? The woman nods. Agrippa has already written the execution order. Tomorrow night, after you meet with Octavian, while you're still processing whatever decision you've made. They'll do it quietly, a pillow over his face while he sleeps, or maybe poison in his wine. Something that looks natural that can be explained as grief or illness. The official story will be that he couldn't bear losing his parents. And Ptolemy? Depends entirely on what you negotiate tomorrow. Your mother was right. He's young enough that Octavian might consider him manageable. But only if you make yourself indispensable enough that losing you would be worse than keeping your brother alive. Selene looks back at her sleeping brothers. Alexander, who taught her to shoot a bow. Ptolemy, who still believes their mother is coming back. One of them is going to die tomorrow no matter what she does. The only question is whether she can save the other. Why are you telling me this? She asks. You could be executed for coming here. I already told you. I made your mother a promise. And unlike certain men who swear oaths to queens and then betray them the moment it's convenient, there's acid in her voice, clearly thinking of Mark Antony's Roman allies who abandoned him at Actium. I keep my promises. Even to the dead. She moves toward the door, then pauses. One more thing. When you meet Octavian tomorrow, he's going to test you. He's going to say something designed to make you react emotionally, to make you angry or sad or desperate. Don't. Whatever he says about your mother, your father, your family, your country, keep your face calm. Show him you're Cleopatra's daughter and intelligence, not emotion. That's what he's actually evaluating. Whether you're controllable. Then she's gone, slipping out the door as silently as she entered, leaving Selene alone with her mother's final letter and an impossible choice. She doesn't sleep that night. Instead, she sits by the window watching dawn break over Alexandria, and rehearses exactly what she's going to say to the man who conquered her world. Morning comes too quickly and not quickly enough. Selene has bathed, dressed herself in one of her mother's simpler gowns, dark blue linen that makes her look older, more serious. She's braided her hair in the Greek style, not the Egyptian. She's removed every piece of jewelry except for a single gold bracelet her father gave her, engraved with their family motto, Sigma Upsilon Nu Theta Epsilon Omicron, with the gods. Small things. Strategic things. Everything designed to send a message. I'm intelligent enough to read the room. I'm practical enough to adapt. I'm worth keeping alive. When the guards come for her, she's ready. She kisses both her brothers goodbye. Ptolemy clings to her, sensing something wrong. Alexander, older, understanding more, just grips her hand once, hard. Come back, he whispers. She doesn't promise. She's her mother's daughter. She doesn't make promises she might not be able to keep. The walk through the palace is deliberately long. More psychological warfare. They're letting her see the occupation, the Roman soldiers everywhere, the Egyptian servants avoiding eye contact, the systematic dismantling of everything her family built. They're showing her exactly how thoroughly she's lost. But Selene keeps her face neutral. She catalogs everything, soldiers' positions, exit routes, which servants look sympathetic, which look hostile. She's 14 years old and she's already thinking like a resistance leader, even though there's nothing left to resist. They bring her to what used to be her mother's private audience chamber. Octavian has redecorated. The Egyptian motifs are gone, replaced with Roman standards, Roman eagles, Roman victory wreaths. Even the furniture has been changed. Her mother's throne is gone, replaced by a simple Roman chair. And sitting in that chair, waiting for her, is Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus, the man who ended her world. He's younger than she expected, only 32, not much older than her father was when he met her mother. But where Mark Antony was all charisma and charm, Octavian is cold calculation. His eyes are pale, almost colorless, and they track her movement across the room with the focus of a mathematician solving an equation. Cleopatra Selene, he says. Not princess. Not royal highness. Just her name, stripped of titles, reminding her exactly where she stands. Caesar, she replies, giving him the title his adopted father bore, the one he craves, the one the Senate hasn't officially granted him yet. A flicker of something crosses his face. Surprise maybe. She's 14 and she's already playing the flattery game. Sit, he gestures to a chair opposite his. Not beside him, that would suggest equality. But not on the floor either, that would suggest complete subjugation. The positioning itself is a test. She sits, keeps her spine straight, folds her hands in her lap. Every gesture controlled, deliberate. She's performing competence, maturity, usefulness. Do you know why you're here? Octavian asks. To determine whether I live or die. He blinks. Admirably direct. My mother taught me that euphemisms are for people who can afford to waste time. I cannot. Another flicker of reaction. He'd expected tears, pleading, maybe anger. He's getting negotiation instead. Good. This is exactly what her mother's letter told her to do. Surprise him. Make him see potential instead of just a problem. Your mother, Octavian says slowly, made many mistakes in her life. Her greatest was underestimating Rome's patience. This is it. The test the servant warned her about. He's insulting Cleopatra, provoking a reaction. Selene feels her jaw tighten, feels her mother's bracelet heavy on her wrist, feels every instinct screaming to defend her mother's memory. Instead, she says, my mother's greatest mistake was overestimating Marcus Antonius's political competence. The room goes absolutely silent. Because she's just thrown her own father, Mark Antony, under the chariot wheels. She's just indicated she can be objective about her family, can see their failures, can potentially be separated from their legacy. Octavian leans forward. Explain. The donations of Alexandria. Declaring my brothers kings of territories Rome considered theirs. Styling himself the new Dionysus. Every gesture designed to insult Roman dignity without actually providing any strategic advantage. He wanted to be Alexander the Great, but he didn't have the army, the resources, or frankly the intelligence for it. He was a brilliant soldier playing at empire building. And we all paid the price for his theater. It's brutal. It's calculated. And it's working. She can see Octavian reassessing her, recalculating the equation. This isn't a grieving child. This is someone who thinks strategically, who can separate emotion from analysis, who might actually be useful. What about your mother? He presses. Was she simply his victim? My mother was brilliant, Selene says flatly. But she made a fatal error. She forgot that love is a luxury queens cannot afford. She chose her heart over her head. And Egypt is paying that price. Her voice doesn't shake. She doesn't cry. She states these devastating assessments of her own parents with the cold clarity of a Greek philosopher. And inside she's screaming, she's grieving, she's dying. But outside she's exactly what Octavian needs her to be. Controlled. Rational. Roman. Octavian sits back. Studies her for a long moment. What do you think should happen to you? Here it is. The moment her entire future balances on. Selene takes a breath. I think you face a complex problem, Caesar. Kill me, and you're the man who murders 14-year-old girls, hardly the image of the merciful victor you're trying to project. Imprison me, and I become a martyr, a symbol of Roman cruelty that your enemies can exploit. But if you civilize me, if you turn Cleopatra's daughter into a grateful Roman citizen who praises your wisdom and mercy in 6 languages, then you transform a potential symbol of resistance into proof of Roman superiority. And your brothers? Her hands tighten in her lap. The only outward sign of the storm inside her. Alexander Helios is too dangerous to live. His name alone makes him a rallying point for anyone who dreams of empire. You and I both know this. Octavian's eyes narrow. You accept your twin brother's execution? I accept reality. I'm my mother's daughter, not her fool. Alexander would never submit to Rome. He's too proud, too certain of his own divine right. Give him 10 years and he'd be leading a rebellion. You cannot let him live. I understand this. The words taste like poison. But she forces them out. Because this is the price. This is what she has to sacrifice to save what she can. But Ptolemy, she continues, voice steady, is 6 years old. He barely remembers our father. He has no political significance beyond the accident of his birth. And I'm proposing a transaction, Caesar. Take me to Rome. Make me your perfect civilized barbarian. I'll learn Latin, study Roman law, praise Roman culture, become everything you want me to be. I'll be living proof that even Egypt's royal house recognizes Roman supremacy. But in exchange, my youngest brother comes with me. He lives, under your protection, raised in a Roman household, becoming a Roman citizen. You get your propaganda victory. I get my family, what's left of it. The silence stretches. Octavian stands, walks to the window, looks out over the same view he contemplated last night. Selene can't read his face, can't tell if she's won or lost, if she's just condemned herself or saved her brother. Finally he turns back. You're very much like her, you know. Your mother. Same intelligence. Same ruthless pragmatism hiding behind that beautiful face. Same ability to calculate odds and make the cold choice. Thank you, Selene says, because in this moment, it is a compliment. I'm told your mother's last words were about you. About protecting her children. It appears she failed. This is another test. Another provocation. Selene doesn't rise to it. My mother's last words were about protecting her children's future. Not their lives. There's a difference. She knew some of us wouldn't survive. She was preparing the survivors. Octavian smiles. It doesn't reach his eyes. You'll go to Rome. You'll live in my sister Octavia's household. She was married to your father once. Delicious irony in that. You'll receive the finest Roman education. You'll learn to be properly civilized. And in 10 years, perhaps, we'll find you a suitable husband, some client king who needs legitimacy and Roman backing. And Ptolemy? Your brother, he pauses, lets the word hang there, will be executed tonight. Along with Alexander Helios. I cannot afford potential claimants to Egypt's throne, no matter how young. You're the exception because you're female, because you're marketable, because you can be controlled through marriage. The boys cannot. Selene's world stops. Just stops. She'd expected this possibility, but hearing it stated so baldly, so casually, like discussing crop rotations or tax policy. You're lying, she says quietly. You need me compliant. You need me grateful. Killing both my brothers ensures neither. I need you realistic, Octavian corrects. I need you to understand exactly how powerless you are, how much you depend on my mercy, how completely your world has changed. Your brothers die tonight. You live. That's the transaction. Accept it or refuse it, but those are the only options available. This is it. The moment her mother's letter prepared her for. He's testing whether she'll break, whether she'll collapse into emotional chaos, whether she's truly as controlled as she appears. Selene stands, looks him directly in the eye. Then I refuse. Octavian freezes. Excuse me? I refuse your offer. If both my brothers die, then I have nothing left to live for. You might as well execute all three of us. At least then we'd die together as family, as royalty. But I won't be your performing monkey, won't spend my life legitimizing their murders, won't be paraded through Rome as proof of your mercy when you showed none. Kill me with them. I'd prefer it. She turns toward the door. This is the gamble. The insane, terrifying gamble. She's betting that Octavian needs her willing participation more than he needs her brothers dead. She's betting her mother understood him correctly, understood his weaknesses, understood that forced compliance is worthless for propaganda purposes. She's 3 steps from the door when he speaks. One brother. She stops. Doesn't turn around. Clarify. You can save one brother. Alexander or Ptolemy, your choice. The other dies tonight. That's my counteroffer. Take it or leave it, but if you walk out that door, the offer expires. Selene closes her eyes. Breeze. This is still better than both of them dying. This is still a victory, if you can call forcing a 14-year-old to choose which brother lives a victory. She turns back. Ptolemy lives. Alexander. Her voice breaks, just slightly, the first crack in her composure. Alexander dies. Quickly. Painlessly. With dignity. Agreed. And I want to say goodbye. To both of them. Before. Octavian considers this. No. You'll say goodbye to Ptolemy in Rome, after we've left Egypt, after there's no chance for local rebels to use your grief as a rallying cry. As for Alexander, it's better if he doesn't know it's coming. A small mercy, but a mercy nonetheless. That's not mercy. That's cowardice. You're afraid to let him face it with courage, afraid he'll make you look weak. I'm afraid of nothing, Octavian says coldly. But I'm also not a fool. Your brother is his father's son. If he knows he's going to die, he'll try something dramatic, something heroic, something that gets more people killed. This way is cleaner. Selene wants to scream. Wants to rage. Wants to call down every Egyptian god on this cold, calculating man who's dissecting her family like a geometry problem. Instead, she nods once sharply. When do I leave for Rome? 3 days. Time enough to secure the city, finalize the administrative transition, pack what's necessary. You'll travel on my ship, under my personal guard. I want it clear to everyone that you're under my protection now. My responsibility. My achievement. Your trophy, she corrects. If you prefer. Words matter less than reality. And the reality is this, Cleopatra Selene. As of this moment, you belong to Rome. Your past is Egyptian. Your future is Roman. The sooner you accept that, the easier your life becomes. He gestures to the guards. Return her to her brothers. Let them have today together. Tonight, separate them. Make it clean. Selene walks back through the palace in a daze. She's saved Ptolemy. She's condemned Alexander. She's chosen between her brothers like choosing between her hands, her eyes, her lungs. And she'll carry that choice for the rest of her life. When she returns to their room, Alexander takes one look at her face and knows. How long do I have? He asks simply. She should lie. Should pretend everything's fine, give him one more day of innocence. But she's her mother's daughter. She doesn't lie to family. Tonight. After Ptolemy's asleep. Alexander nods slowly. He's 14, same as her, her twin, her mirror. He understands the politics as well as she does. You saved Ptolemy. I couldn't save you both. I know. He pulls her into a hug. She can feel him trembling, feel her own tears finally breaking through, dampening his shoulder. I don't want to die, he whispers. I know. Tell Ptolemy I loved him. When he's old enough to understand, Tell him why you couldn't save us both. Don't let him hate you. He won't remember you. He's too young. In 10 years you'll just be a story I tell him. Then make it a good story, Alexander says fiercely. Make me brave. Make me heroic. Make me everything father should have been. And Selene, promise me something. Anything. Survive. Survive and remember. Because if you die, if Ptolemy dies, then our entire family disappears from history. Rome wins completely. They erase us like we never existed. But if you live, if you remember, if you tell our story, then they can't completely destroy us. Promise me. She promises. Through tears, through grief that's tearing her apart, she promises her dying brother that she'll remember. That she'll survive. That she'll make them regret they didn't kill her when they had the chance. They spend the day together. All three of them. They tell stories about their parents, the good memories before the war, before everything fell apart. They play the games they played as children. They pretend for a few hours that nothing has changed. And when night falls, when guards come to take Ptolemy to a different room because renovations require separate quarters, the little boy goes willingly, tired from the day, not understanding that he's saying goodbye to his brother forever. Alexander watches him go. Then he turns to Selene. Do you think there's an afterlife? Do you think I'll see mother and father? Yes, she says, believing it with everything she has left. Yes, you'll see them. And you'll tell them that we survived, that Ptolemy and I survived, that their legacy lives on. That's a beautiful lie, Alexander says. Thank you for it. An hour later, the guards come for him. They're polite, professional, almost gentle. They're just following orders after all. Just solving a political problem. Just eliminating a potential threat to Rome's stability. Alexander doesn't resist. He walks out with his head high, his shoulders back, every inch his father's son. At the door he looks back once, makes eye contact with Selene, and mouths two words, remember everything. Then he's gone. Selene sits alone in a room full of her mother's belongings, surrounded by the ghosts of her family, and finally lets herself break. But quietly. Because even grief is a performance now. Even sorrow has to be controlled, measured, appropriate. She's Rome's property now. And Rome doesn't appreciate excessive displays of emotion. 3 days later, she's on a ship bound for Rome. Ptolemy is with her, confused, asking about Alexander, not understanding why his brother isn't there. Selene tells him Alexander is on another ship, that they'll see him in Rome. Small lies to protect a child's heart. She'll tell him the truth when he's older. When he can understand. When it won't destroy him. The voyage takes 16 days. 16 days of watching Egypt disappear behind her, 16 days of watching Rome approach ahead, 16 days of slowly, systematically erasing Cleopatra Selene, Princess of Egypt, and creating whoever she needs to be to survive. She practices her Latin until it's flawless. She studies Roman history, Roman laws, Roman customs. She learns to eat like a Roman, dress like a Roman, speak like a Roman. She's her mother's daughter, she understands the performance required. But at night in her cabin she writes. Everything. Every memory of her parents, every story about Egypt, every lesson her mother taught her. She writes it in Greek, in hieratic script, in Demotic Egyptian. She hides the papers in her clothes, in her belongings, between the pages of borrowed books. Because Alexander was right. If she doesn't record this, if she doesn't preserve it, then Rome wins completely. When they reach Rome, Octavian throws her a triumph. Not the kind where prisoners are paraded in chains, those are reserved for men. But a celebration of his Egyptian conquest, with Selene and Ptolemy displayed as evidence of his victory, his mercy, his superior civilization. She plays her part perfectly. Smiles when directed. Thanks Octavian publicly for his generosity. Praises Rome's greatness in 3 languages. Gives the watching crowds exactly what they want to see, a grateful barbarian princess, civilized by Roman superiority, proof that resistance is futile, that Rome cannot be challenged, that even Cleopatra's own children recognize Roman dominance. And every night she goes to Octavia's house, her new home, and she writes. She remembers. She preserves. Octavia herself is kind, surprisingly so. She was married to Mark Antony once, before he abandoned her for Cleopatra. By all rights she should hate Selene. Instead, she treats her with a gentleness that feels almost maternal. I don't blame you for your father's choices, Octavia says one evening, finding Selene crying over her brother's memory. You're a child. You deserved better than being caught between empires. Did you love him? Selene asks. My father? Octavia considers this. I respected him. I tried to make the marriage work. But love? He was always looking east, always dreaming of Alexander's empire. I was just a political alliance he tolerated. Your mother was the one he actually wanted. And look where that got them. True, Octavia says softly. But at least they had love, however briefly. Most of us don't even get that. She becomes Selene's tutor, teacher, protector. She helps the girl navigate Roman society, warns her about political dangers, shields her from the worst of the whispers and stares. And slowly, grudgingly, Selene starts to build a new life. But she doesn't forget. Can't forget. Won't forget. 10 years pass. Selene is 24 now, educated, sophisticated, fluent in Latin, Greek, Egyptian, Hebrew, Aramaic, and Parthian. She's exactly what Octavian wanted, the perfect civilized barbarian, proof of Rome's transformative power. Ptolemy is 16. He barely remembers Egypt, doesn't remember their parents, thinks of himself as Roman. Selene has told him stories, tried to preserve their heritage, but he's too young, too assimilated. He calls Octavia mother, and Octavian uncle. He's become what they wanted him to become. And Selene is about to be married off. To Juba II, king of Mauritania, a client king who needs legitimacy and Roman backing. It's a perfect political marriage. She'll be a queen again, will have power, influence, status. Everything she lost is being partially restored. But the night before her wedding, something happens that changes everything. A messenger arrives at Octavia's house. An old woman, Egyptian by her features, carrying a package wrapped in weathered linen. She asks for Cleopatra Selene by her full title, the first time Selene's heard that name spoken aloud in a decade. The package contains objects. Her mother's bracelet, the one Selene thought lost when she was first taken to Octavian. A lock of Alexander's hair. A child's drawing that Ptolemy made when he was 4, showing their whole family together. And a letter. To the daughter of Cleopatra from those who remember. We are few now. Most of us are dead, executed in Octavian's purges, or simply dead from age and grief. But we have preserved what we could. We have remembered what Rome wanted us to forget. And we wanted you to know, before you become a Mauritanian queen, before you move even further from Egypt, that you were not alone in remembering. Your mother's library has been partially saved. Hidden, scattered, but preserved. Her diplomatic correspondence. Her scientific writings. Her poetry. Everything Rome declared didn't exist, we've saved. One day, when it's safe, when enough time has passed, we'll find a way to preserve it permanently. But we needed you to know that the erasure was incomplete. That Egypt's memory survives. We know what you sacrificed to save your brother. We know what choice you were forced to make. We know about Alexander. And we want you to know that his death was not in vain. He became a rallying cry for Egyptian resistance, not in his life but in his death. Remember, Alexander Helios became our password, our secret greeting, our way of identifying each other. The boy Rome murdered became the symbol of everything they tried to destroy. You did save him, in a way. Just not the way you intended. Live your life, princess. Marry your king. Rule Mauritania well. But remember who you are, what you carry, what you preserve. You are the last of the Ptolemies. The last link to 300 years of dynasty. The last person alive who remembers Cleopatra as mother instead of monster. Make them regret they didn't kill you when they had the chance. Selene reads it 3 times. Her hands aren't shaking anymore. She's learned control in the last 10 years, learned to hide every emotion, every reaction. But inside something shifts. Something settles into place. She's been playing Rome's game for a decade. Surviving, adapting, transforming herself into what they needed her to be. But survival isn't enough anymore. Alexander didn't die just so she could live quietly in Mauritania, raising half-Roman children, slowly forgetting her own heritage. He died so she could preserve. So she could remember. So she could ensure that Cleopatra's legacy survived beyond Roman propaganda. The next day she marries Juba II. She becomes Queen of Mauritania. And she begins the work that will define the rest of her life. She establishes libraries, schools, cultural centers. She brings Egyptian scholars to Mauritania, gives them sanctuary, provides them with resources. She commissions histories, preserves manuscripts, creates institutions that will outlast her lifetime. She has children. 2 of them. Names them Ptolemy and Cleopatra. Teaches them their heritage, their real heritage, not the Roman version. Makes sure they know who their grandmother was, who their uncles were, what they lost and why. And in 6 CE, when Octavian, now officially Augustus, finally dies, Selene is 44 years old. She's been a queen for 20 years, has built a kingdom that rivals anything in Rome's empire. And she writes her own history. Not for publication. Not for Roman audiences. But for posterity. For anyone who might find it centuries later and want to know the truth. This is what happened in those final hours before dawn on August 12, 30 BCE. This is what Octavian ordered in his private chambers that Rome never recorded. This is the choice I was forced to make, the brother I saved, the brother I lost, the price I paid for survival. Alexander Helios was executed by suffocation on the night of August 14, 30 BCE. He was 14 years old. He died believing in Egyptian gods and Ptolemaic glory and his father's dream of empire. He died with courage, dignity, and grace. He died unmourned by Rome but unforgotten by Egypt. I am Cleopatra Selene, daughter of Marcus Antonius and Cleopatra VII Philopator, Queen of Mauritania, last of the Ptolemies. And this is my testimony. Remember everything.